Hey Food Allergy Mama, one question I hear from parents is my child ready to self-carry epinephrine at school? Sometimes we think we're ready, but the school or maybe their doctor isn't convinced. We all know that having that epinephrine handy and available right away is important, which makes self-carrying an important option. So how do you actually know they're ready, and what can you do to show the school they are? In today's episode, we're walking through what self-carry actually means and how to know if your child is ready. I'll share some real-life tests you can do to help everyone feel confident. By the end of the episode, you'll have a solid plan for figuring out if your child is ready to self-carry this school year, whether it's your child's first time or just a new grade with new expectations. Let's get to it. Hey Food Allergy Mama, if you're here, you've likely experienced the scary and lonely food allergy diagnosis with your child. Unfortunately, food allergy parents aren't taught how to navigate the food allergy lifestyle, and it's easy to feel alone and discouraged sometimes. But I'm here to show you that food allergy life, it doesn't have to feel restrictive, scary, or isolated. I'm Karina, and I'm a 17-year food allergy mom and food allergy coach at Friendly Pantry Consulting. I specialize in making food allergy life safer and less worrisome for food allergy families like yours. I'm not perfect, but over 17 years, I've learned a lot the hard way, and I'm sharing the secrets and resources you won't hear anywhere else that will help you feel confident living with food allergies faster and easier than I did. From introducing allergens, travel, navigating school, and educating friends and family, this podcast will give you the essential tips and strategies you need to help your food allergy child and family thrive. Welcome to the show. Have you listened to all of my episodes about navigating school? I highly recommend going back to the beginning of the podcast and listening because most of them are still applicable. No matter whether your child is in preschool or grade school, you won't want to miss those episodes. But let's talk about self-carrying epinephrine. So let's define what that actually because a distinction between self-administering and self-carrying is important. So my daughter started self-carrying at about age 6, but I really didn't consider her old enough to self-administer the epinephrine. This is for a couple of reasons. First, I feel like at 6, she was just a little too young to understand whether she actually needed it or not. And I think it's hard for even an adult to discern whether to use the epinephrine. So I think a child, it's just a lot of pressure and too much to put on them. Second, anaphylaxis can cause fainting as a major symptom. And if this was to happen, she would definitely not physically be able to administer her epinephrine. Not to mention, if she was feeling very sick to her stomach or having other serious symptoms, she would need help. So for these two reasons, I believe that it's crucial that an adult administers the epinephrine, and I think it's important to discuss this with your school so that everyone is on the same page. With that in mind, here's a couple of thoughts or easy tests that are going to help you know if your child is ready to carry their epinephrine. First, a couple of disclaimers. I am not a child behavior expert or a child psychologist. These suggestions are just coming from an experienced food allergy mama who's been in this situation. And I want you to know that there is no black and white answer when it comes to self-carrying. My personal opinion is to self-carry as soon as possible if the child is mature enough, simply because it wastes too much time to get that epinephrine from the office or figure out who's holding it when the child is on the playground. But check with your allergist since they can help you assess the risk for your child and your family specifically. So my daughter was 6 and in grade 1 when she started self-carrying. That said, she was really mature at that age. I could trust her not to play with the epinephrine or let anyone else play with it. And yes, kids did ask her to take it out. More on that in a minute. But I could trust that my daughter wouldn't leave it in random spots like the playground. But how can you tell if you can trust your child and if they're ready? Here are a couple of questions, or shall we say tests, to help you decide. So we want to discover whether your child can be trusted and if we can trust them to remember that epinephrine and not leave it randomly on the school playground. We want to keep other kids safe, and also it's expensive, so we don't want to have to buy a new one if it gets left. So right off the bat, to help answer this, you could think about their favorite toys. Do they leave them around? Do they keep them close? But if you want to dig a little deeper and see what they might do in real life, you could give your child a practice epinephrine trainer in a waist pack at home. Watch what they do over a few days. Do they leave the waist pack on? If not at first, is it possible to keep it on for short spurts and then increase that for longer and longer sets of time until it's the full time they'll be at school? Of course they're little, so you don't want to force it, but if they can work up to keeping it on for as long as they would need to at school, that's a really good sign. The next thing you want to figure out is if your child can withstand temptations to take it out of its case or show other kids if they ask, or even just play with it. One way to test this might be a role reversal conversation. So flip the script and ask them, what would you do if your friend had an epinephrine auto-injector and wanted to show it to you or play with it? What do they tell you? Their answer can say a lot. Maybe they'll say that's not a toy, they should put it away, and that's a good sign of responsibility. Another idea is when you're doing that test that I talked about earlier, set the expectations. Let them know that this stays with you. It's not for show and tell, it's only for emergencies. Then see how they handle it. Do they zip it up and leave it alone, or are they tempted to show it off or fiddle with it? Try taking it to a play date and see if they take it out when a friend asks. This little test or trial will help you understand how your child will react and act in real life. If they can carry it when you're going to friends and family without a problem, that's a helpful indicator of their readiness. And even if they don't seem ready, you can see what you might need to work on with them to get them ready. So if you try these little tests and your child does well, then I would definitely push for self-carrying at school. If you need your doctor's approval and they aren't sure, you could tell them what you did and how your child handled it so they can get a feel for your child's maturity. Don't worry if your child isn't ready to self-carry because there can be other accommodations made for the time being until they are ready. For example, I've heard of teachers passing the epinephrine from teacher to teacher so it followed the school or the child around during the school day. And don't forget to make plans for what's going to happen at recess and lunch where the recess supervisor would need to get the epinephrine for them. But I want to backtrack a little bit because I mentioned earlier that kids asked my daughter to show them the epinephrine a lot in grade 1. My daughter was really good about not taking her EpiPen out, but she came home many times telling me that people were asking to see it, and I didn't want her to feel pressured. So you know what worked? Doing a fun education session in her classroom. At the time, I wasn't sure if it would work, but I felt like a big part of this was to take the mystery out of it. So I went into her classroom and I read them a story about food allergies, and I brought several trainer epinephrine injectors so they could see them and actually try them out. Now, of course, I told them the real thing is not a toy and it will never come out of its case. But the session was a success. Their curiosity was quenched and they stopped asking my daughter to show them the epinephrine. She didn't have a problem again. And sometimes a small thing like this can make a difference for years to come. If you're able, I would highly recommend trying this in your child's class. So are you about to meet with your teacher about food allergies and maybe you don't know what to talk about or what to ask for? Check out my school allergy plan template and the school success pack. You can get them at www.friendlypantry.com/school so you can have a safer, more inclusive school year. If this episode was helpful, please let me know by giving the podcast a 5-star review so that other food allergy families can find it. Thanks for listening and bye for now. Before you go, Mama, if you love this episode and want deeper support, head over to friendlypantry.com to see how we can partner together to keep your food allergy child safer and worry less. There's no need for wasting time searching all over Instagram, TikTok, and the web to get the practical knowledge you need for your family. While you're there, grab your free Food Allergy Kids Empowerment Guide or the newly diagnosed checklist today. Topics are not medical advice and are the opinions, views, and property of Friendly Pantry Consulting Incorporated. All rights reserved. Always contact your board-certified allergist, immunologist for health advice.